Victor Wembanyama is the most physically absurd athlete the NBA has ever put on a floor, and we spend almost all of our time arguing about whether he's going to break basketball. But there's a stranger question hiding underneath that one, because the more you actually look at his body, the more you start to wonder if he picked the wrong sport entirely. So let's ask it directly. Could Victor Wembanyama win an Olympic gold medal in volleyball? Start with the thing everyone notices first, which is the size. Wembanyama is listed at 7'4", and his wingspan stretches out to roughly 8 feet across. His standing reach, meaning the height he could touch flat-footed without jumping at all, sits comfortably above 9 feet. Now hold that number next to a volleyball net. The men's net at the Olympic level is set at 7 feet 11.5 inches, and that's the height the entire sport is organized around. Wembanyama could walk up to it, keep both heels glued to the floor, and still reach more than a foot over the top of it. He hasn't jumped yet, he hasn't even bent his knees. He's just standing there, already towering over the one piece of equipment the whole game revolves around. In volleyball, the block is where the giants live, and it's the first place Wembanyama would absolutely terrify people. A blocker's entire job is to get his hands over the net and wall off the other team's attack, so the taller your reach, the more of the court you simply erase. The best blockers on the planet get their hands somewhere around 11 or 12 feet up at the very peak of a jump. Wemby would be flirting with that number before his feet ever left the ground, which means a modest little hop turns his block into something the sport has frankly never had to deal with. Picture an opposing hitter rising up for a spike, scanning the net for a gap, and finding an 8-foot wingspan hanging in the air in front of him. There is no gap, there's just Wembanyama, and a very bad decision about to happen. This is also the part of volleyball that would feel weirdly familiar to him. Basketball spends all of its energy telling tall players what they can't do at the rim, because goaltending is a violation and swatting a ball on its way down gets you whistled. Volleyball flips that completely, since reaching over the net to bury someone's attack isn't cheating at all, it's the whole point. So you'd be taking a man whose deepest instinct is to block everything in sight and dropping him into the one sport that actually rewards it. And he wouldn't just be defending, because that same reach makes him a nightmare on offense too. A hitter swinging down from Wembanyama's height would be attacking a target that the other team basically can't defend. And this is where Wemby separates himself from your average 7-footer, because he isn't a stiff, lumbering giant. He's got genuinely soft hands, quick wrist, and the kind of touch that lets him guide a basketball off his fingertips from 20 feet away. Volleyball lives and dies on exactly that quality. The gap between a kill and a smothered attack often comes down to how delicately you could flick your wrist at the very last second, and that's a tool Wemby already owns. The raw materials are all sitting right there, which is what makes this whole idea so dangerously tempting in the first place. Here's the part that turns this from a fun thought experiment into something almost plausible. We don't actually have to guess what a giant does in Olympic volleyball, because one already did it. His name is Dmitriy Muserskiy. He stands 7'2", just a couple inches shorter than Wemby. And in the 2012 London final, he hung 31 points on Brazil to win Russia the gold medal. That's still the scoring record for an Olympic final more than a decade later. Muserskiy didn't win in spite of his height, he won because of it, and his block reach was measured right around 12 feet. When his coach slid him over to attacking late in that match, the best defensive team in the world suddenly had no answer for a man swinging down from that kind of altitude. So the precedent isn't theoretical, it's sitting in the record books. A 7'2" human being walked into the most important volleyball match on earth and bullied the reigning kings of the sport, and Wembanyama has 2 inches and a much longer wingspan on him. Which is exactly where we need to pump the brakes, because volleyball is not a height contest. If it were, the tallest roster would win every single time, and that's nowhere close to how the sport actually plays out. Volleyball is a timing sport, wearing a power sports clothes. Every block depends on reading the setter, guessing where the ball is headed, and leaving the floor at the precise right instant. Jump a beat too early or a beat too late, and that beautiful 12-foot reach is worth absolutely nothing. Muserskiy didn't pull that timing out of his DNA. He started playing volleyball at 8 years old, which means he had close to 2 decades of reps stacked up before he ever walked into that Olympic final. Every one of those reps was quietly teaching his body the one thing that matters most, which is when to go. There's also the small matter of how volleyball players jump, because it looks nothing like a basketball leap. A volleyball approach is a fast, choreographed 3-step attack that converts a running start into vertical lift, and it takes years before it stops feeling like a foreign language. Wemby jumps gorgeously for basketball, but a basketball takeoff and a volleyball approach are genuinely different skills, and being elite at one doesn't quietly hand you the other. He'd essentially have to relearn how to leave the ground from scratch. And he'd have to do it while moving in ways basketball never once asked of him. A volleyball court is smaller than it looks on television. The rallies fly by in furious little bursts, and players are constantly shuffling, diving, and resetting their feet before every contact. That's a completely different kind of athleticism than gliding up and down on a hardwood floor, and his enormous frame, so perfect up at the net, becomes an awful lot of limb to fold up and control near the ground. Then come all the parts of volleyball that have nothing to do with being tall. Someone has to pass the serve, and a clean serve receive demands a soft, precise platform off the forearms that players spend years grooving until it's automatic. Someone has to serve, and a jump serve under Olympic pressure is one of the most nerve-shredding skills in any sport. Someone has to dig screaming attacks up off the floor, react in a sliver of a second, and control a ball moving faster than most people can even track. Elite spikes come off the net at well over 80 miles an hour, and they're being launched from only a few feet away. Reacting to that has nothing to do with wingspan or vertical leap, because it's pure reflex and anticipation, the kind that only gets wired in after thousands of reps staring those attacks down. None of that lives in Wembanyama's toolkit right now, and none of it comes from being tall. It comes from a childhood spent inside a gym, learning the game one painful repetition at a time. Now you might be thinking he doesn't actually need all of those skills, and you'd be half right. Volleyball is clever about hiding its specialists because the rules let a team swap in a short defensive player the moment their big man rotates to the back row. That's exactly how real teams protect their giant middle blockers. They park them at the net to attack and block, then quietly sub them out before they'd ever have to play defense. So in theory, you could build a whole system that only asks Wembanyama to do the two things he'd be best at. But here's the catch buried inside the catch. Even a pure specialist still has to block with perfect timing, finish an attack that a setter places just for him, and serve when his turn comes around. There is no spot on a volleyball court where you get to win on reach alone, and gold medals don't get handed out for potential. And that finally brings us to the real problem, which isn't Wembanyama's body at all. It's the calendar. An Olympic gold medal in volleyball is not an individual trophy. It's the product of an entire national team built over years, with a setter who knows exactly where to drop the ball, and teammates who trust each other in the biggest moments of their lives. Wembanyama would need all of that, plus the years of training just to deserve a spot on the floor in the first place. And he happens to have a fairly demanding day job already, being the best young player in the NBA, so those thousands of gym hours simply don't exist for him. There's also no clever way around the people already standing in his path. Every spot on a national team is held by someone who has poured their entire life into this sport, and they don't hand those jerseys over to a tourist, no matter how many inches he has on them. So let's actually answer the question, because it deserves a real answer instead of a shrug. If Victor Wembanyama had grown up in a volleyball gym instead of a basketball court, the answer is almost certainly yes. A 7'4" athlete with his coordination, trained from childhood, would have been the most frightening middle blocker the sport has ever seen. And Muserskiy already proved the blueprint works. Wembanyama is arguably a better physical specimen than Muserskiy ever was. But that's not the question we asked. We asked whether this Wembanyama, the NBA superstar standing in front of us today, could pivot right now and win gold. And that answer is no. Not because he lacks the body, but because he lacks the 10,000 hours and the team that a gold medal genuinely requires. It's the rare case where the most freakish athlete alive would still come up short, and the thing standing in his way isn't physical at all, it's time. Which leaves us with a strange little truth about Victor Wembanyama. He might honestly be the greatest volleyball player who never played volleyball, with a gold medal sitting in some parallel universe that he's never going to get to visit. And in a weird way, that might be the most impressive thing about him. We're talking about an athlete so absurdly gifted that we have to go invent entire other sports just to find the edge of what his body could do. Thanks so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed, please remember to like this one and subscribe so you don't miss future uploads. I'll talk to you guys.